Continuing with books about self-protection, there's a book by a chap that I've known for many, many years, from round about late 1965 or 66, when he was involved in teaching karate. He came to Liverpool. That there was a dojo there that I didn't train at, but he was one of the visiting instructors there, and I met him on the circuit. Got to know him later on. He was a member of the British team. He started working on the doors in Manchester, and he was the first guy to compete and to win in a full contact event in the UK. And he later went into VIP protection and had some very prestigious clients. He had his own company and he worked all over the world on that. And it's Pete Consterdine, and this is one of his books, the book on self-protection, called Streetwise. You notice that in these videos I've been using the term self-protection. Well, it was in fact Pete who coined that term. Until then, we generally used to say self-defense, but he pointed out that defense, really, you're on the back foot to start with. And the whole idea is to be protecting yourself, sometimes even before the violent encounter, the opponent has even thought of the violent encounter. In other words, preparation and avoidance, and that all comes into it. In the book, he divides self-protection down into two aspects: personal security and self-defense. So the two together then become self-protection. So it's a whole subject. He says, to quote, "I've seen some of the worst efforts produced by martial artists who have a perception as to how violence will occur and what they will do about it. The attacks they portray are martial arts formed. By that I mean they are based on punches and kicks that they practice in the dojo. Even people who you think would know better are guilty of this." So Pete, together with Jeff Thompson, was one of the first people to point out the deficiencies of traditional martial arts in street encounters. One of the things that he mentioned at the time was the over-reliance on blocking. And he coined the term "blocking is bollocks," that we were spending too much time, particularly in karate, working on blocks and so on. And it wasn't necessary, didn't apply in the street. And anybody who worked in security got to know that fairly quickly. Other sections of the book, unlike some of the other books I've reviewed, which are American books, this isn't firearms based. In fact, it's not really weapons based at all, because it's for the UK, for our limitations. Wish that we could carry personal weapons of protection, but we can't. And I really suggest that you follow the law. I do. I don't break the law. So you've got to work with what you've got. And this book is for that, which is great. Another section of it is to do with things that work. So he quotes an American manual, which I've got, called The Street Survival Police Manual. And it starts with, "Ask yourself how many times I could have been attacked today and what I could have done about it." And it's a really great way to start thinking about the subject. "I know if I'm in," this is Pete, "I know if I'm in a pub, restaurant, exiting a shop, getting in the car, turning a corner, or any transition, that there is the potential for an approach by someone and escalating physical conflict. As a consequence, I'm always balanced. I always expect to be in a short social stance. I will have one or both hands occupied, and I will also have to be alert while engaged in a task or action. So goes into things like programming the opponent. Really interesting section on that, talking hands, and the importance of preemptives. He discusses in quite some detail the power punch. I think he did do a DVD on it, and this is based on the double hip principle. This isn't a martial arts book as such, but having experienced this firsthand, Pete and I discussed this once, and in a car park, he got the poly pad out and held it and had me punch with the traditional reverse punch, then did the same to me and made me a believer. And the last time I did a course for the BCA, he showed us the low kick using the double hip, which was fantastic. He generates enormous impact with this, and it's quite easy to learn. It's very sound physical principles, and I would recommend, if you're involved in any kind of punching method, then have a look at that. The book itself is fairly meaty work. As I say, it's spot on for the British market, but it also is relevant elsewhere. It does include travel and that kind of thing. The whole spectrum, environmental aspects and so on. So it's by a guy who really knows what he's talking about, a guy that I listen to when he talks, and it's a book you should have.